You're telling me the baby has his exact eyes? Tiana Wells didn't respond, her gaze fixed on the stroller, on the small boy with curls like hers, skin a shade softer, but those unmistakable steel-grey eyes, the kind you didn't see often, the kind only one man had, Sterling Beck. Some secrets don't stay hidden, not when they have a face, and certainly not when that face is a carbon copy of a billionaire CEO who vanished before sunrise. Tiana hadn't planned for this. Not the night, not the man, and definitely not the baby. But here they were, 10 months later, one woman, one child, and now, the man she'd hoped to forget was standing right in front of her, looking at her baby like he saw a ghost. No words, just silence, and those eyes. Have you ever hidden something for so long that it started breathing on its own? That's what motherhood felt like for Tiana. She didn't hide Cairo because she was afraid of the man who fathered him. She hid him because the moment she told the truth, everything would change. She would no longer be just Tiana. She'd be that girl, the one who had a baby with her boss, the one who didn't speak up, the one who disappeared quietly, as if her story didn't matter. But her story did matter, because she didn't just fall into bed with anyone. She fell into bed with Sterling Beck, the tech world's reclusive billionaire, the one with a fortress-like gaze, the closed-door meetings, the employees who never knew if they were about to be fired or promoted. He was a man wrapped in rumors, cold, brilliant, dangerous in silence, but not that night. That night, he was human. It happened during a snowstorm. One room, one bed, a power outage, whiskey, laughter, a conversation that drifted into vulnerability, and a man who leaned in without warning. She could have pulled away. She didn't. She let him in, body and heart. By morning, he was gone. No note, no number, no goodbye. Just a hotel keycard left on the table, and an ache she didn't know how to name. 3 weeks later, nausea arrived. And then the truth hit like thunder. Sterling hadn't just left the room. He'd left a child behind. Would you yell? Cry? Stay silent? Tiana didn't do any of those. She just stood there, frozen, professional, unreadable, as Sterling Beck stared at her baby. At the birthmark on Cairo's wrist, the same one he had. His voice shook. Is he mine? She blinked, and the world tilted. The story begins in Seattle, at a luxury hotel called Miran Bay Resort, perched along the waterline like a modern glass fortress. It's where Tiana had been hired for her first major PR contract. It's where executives whispered about the big boss with reverence and fear. It's where Sterling Beck, hidden from press, feared by staff, made his quiet return during a crisis. Tiana had never seen him before that night. He'd been nothing more than a name in an email signature, until she was handed a single room key and told there were no other available rooms. What followed wasn't planned, but it wasn't forced either. And what came after? Well, that's what you're about to experience. This isn't just a story about a CEO and a one-night stand. This is a story about what happens after the storm. When a woman chooses dignity over exposure, when a man faces the child he never knew he had, when second chances aren't given, they're earned. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories don't start with, "I love you." They start with, "Why didn't you tell me?" Have you ever kept something secret because the truth would hurt too much? Tell us in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories. The journey is only beginning. The lobby smelled like cedarwood and expensive silence. Tiana Wells walked across the black marble floor of Miran Bay Resort, with her tablet in one hand and a travel duffel on her shoulder. She had reviewed the crisis report 3 times on the flight, and twice again during the Uber ride from the airport. Her pitch was tight. Her projections were solid. All she needed now was a quiet room to prep for tomorrow's presentation. It was her first corporate retreat as the lead PR strategist for Beck Technologies, and the biggest contract she had ever signed since launching her agency. She hadn't come to Seattle for drama. She came to deliver. But as she approached the front desk, she spotted trouble right away. The young receptionist's smile was tight. Too tight. "Ms. Wells," the woman greeted, typing quickly. "We've been expecting you." "That's great," Tiana replied, handing over her ID. "I'll just need 2 hours of silence and an extra set of towels." The receptionist's fingers stalled over the keyboard. "About your room, there's been an adjustment." Tiana narrowed her eyes. "What kind of adjustment?" "There was a reservation error due to the snowstorm. Most of our overflow rooms were double booked by corporate. Unfortunately, you're going to be sharing a suite." Tiana blinked. "I didn't agree to share with anyone." "I completely understand," the woman replied quickly, voice tight. "But due to road closures and flight cancellations, we had no way of preventing the overlap. You've been paired with another executive guest. It's only temporary. You'll be assigned your own room by morning." Tiana folded her arms. "Who am I being paired with?" The woman hesitated, then cleared her throat. "Mr. Beck, Sterling Beck." Silence. Tiana's lips parted slightly, but nothing came out. The name didn't just belong to the company. It was the company. Sterling Beck wasn't just the CEO. He was the myth, the shadow, the ghost investor who built one of the fastest-growing AI consulting platforms in the country and then vanished from public view. No interviews, no press, not even updated headshots on Google. Tiana had only exchanged emails with his assistant, never him directly. This man had been unreachable, unseen, and now she had to room with him? She glanced outside. Snow pounded the sidewalks. Her Uber driver had already left. "Fine," she muttered. "I'll sleep on the couch." Mirren Bay's executive floor was silent, tucked away behind glass-etched double doors. The suite number was etched in silver, and as Tiana approached, she felt her heartbeat speed up. She tapped the key card. The door clicked. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers. She stepped in, suitcase dragging behind her, and froze. He was already there. He sat on the couch with his sleeves rolled to his elbows, a tablet in one hand and a glass of untouched scotch in the other. His hair was thick, dark, and slightly tousled, not messy, not perfect. His eyes looked up briefly from the screen and landed on her. Steel grey, just like the rumors. His voice was lower than she expected. "I didn't expect company. I didn't request it either," she replied coolly, dropping her bag near the wall. He tilted his head. "You're the PR lead, right?" "Tiana Wells," she nodded, remaining near the door. He glanced down at his tablet again. "I've read your projections. Impressive. You're ahead of schedule." "Good to know my sleep-deprived hustle is showing." There was a pause. He nodded toward the bed behind them. "There's only one. I don't snore. If you do, I'll survive." "I'll take the couch," she said. "No objections here." He returned to his screen. The suite was beautiful. High ceilings, minimalist decor, warm wooden accents. A single king-sized bed sat to the side, neatly made with white linen. Tiana grabbed a hotel throw and curled up on the corner of the couch, silently kicking off her boots. She opened her laptop and tried to focus, but the sound of Sterling's fingers tapping on the screen was all she could hear. A few minutes passed. The power flickered. Then, total blackout. Everything shut off. The music. The lamps. Even the heat pump. "Seriously?" Tiana whispered. Sterling reached for his phone flashlight. "It's the storm. Generator usually kicks in after 20. I need to review slides." He handed her a backup battery pack. "Use mine." She hesitated, surprised. "Thanks." He shrugged. "You're the only one keeping my company from looking like amateurs tomorrow. I can't afford for you to crash." She connected the charger. And then, quiet. Outside, snow whispered against the windows. Inside, Tiana sat bundled in the throw, scrolling through her deck until her screen blurred. She sighed and rubbed her eyes. Sterling finally broke the silence. "You always work this late?" She looked up. "I always work this hard." He smirked, just a little. "You sound like me 10 years ago. And now, I sleep less and trust fewer people." She leaned back. raising an eyebrow. Is that what billions buy you? Sleep deprivation and trust issues? He chuckled, low, unexpected. No. That's what betrayal buys you. They talked. Not much at first, but the storm outside pushed them into quiet companionship. He poured a tiny glass of scotch for her. Just one. She sipped slowly. They covered music, childhood, how both their parents thought their careers were too unstable. He shared a story about his first failed startup. She told him about building her firm from her car during the pandemic. Somewhere in the lull between laughter and silence, their legs touched. She didn't move. He turned slightly toward her. His eyes studied her face, not in a hungry way, but as if memorizing it. Do people usually talk to you like this? He asked. No, she said. But I don't think you were always this cold either. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached forward, slowly, deliberately, and brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. Then he leaned in. She didn't stop him. Their lips met, soft, careful, lingering. What followed wasn't a rush. It was quiet, intentional, the way someone loves when they think it's just once. No promises, no names whispered, just connection. By the time she drifted asleep, her head on the pillow beside his, the snow had stopped. But the storm inside her had just begun. The sunlight didn't wake her. The cold did. Tiana stirred under the hotel's white linen, blinking against the weak morning light that slipped past the tall glass windows. The snowstorm had calmed overnight, leaving a soft white blanket outside. The city quiet, the world paused. She reached out instinctively, half asleep. But the bed was empty. Her hand met only sheets, still warm but fading. She sat up quickly. The other side of the bed was untouched. No duffel, no jacket, no tablet. Just a hotel key card placed neatly on the bedside table. No note, no goodbye. Just silence. She swung her legs over the side of the bed, her breath caught halfway between disbelief and bitterness. For a moment, she just sat there, the night before, flashing in pieces through her head. The laughter, the scotch, the kiss, the softness in his voice, the way he held her like she was something fragile. She stared at the keycard. Room 1108. Temporary, just like everything else about him. Tiana stepped into the bathroom, splashed her face with water, and caught her reflection in the mirror. She didn't look broken. She looked like someone who made a choice, and was now facing the cost of it. The professionalism kicked in. No time for feelings. Not now. She had a presentation to prep. She wiped the mirror, tied her hair back, and forced her emotions into a steel vault somewhere beneath her skin. Downstairs, the Mirren Bay ballroom buzzed with movement. Waiters in black shirts circled with trays. Executives adjusted collars. The massive screen displayed the Beck Technologies logo in soft animation. Tiana walked in wearing a sharp blazer over a fitted black turtleneck dress, laptop in hand, heels clicking. She scanned the room. Eyes sharp, heart dull. No sign of Sterling. He was the CEO. He should have been here. But instead, one of the senior VPs, a woman named Marlene, approached with a clipboard. Ms. Wells. She smiled. Mr. Beck sends his regards. He left early for an off-grid site visit, but he'll review your deck personally later this week. Tiana blinked slowly. He left? Marlene nodded, moving on. And just like that, it was confirmed. No follow-up, no explanation, just vanished. She delivered the presentation flawlessly. Every slide on point, every metric ready, every projection precise. She ended with applause. Her client contact gave her a pat on the back. You saved our image. Your pitch went viral internally. You've got talent. She smiled politely. But inside, she wasn't celebrating. Not yet, because something had shifted. And she didn't know what to do with it. That night, alone in her own room, she sat by the window with her laptop open and a blank document on screen. She typed, Sterling, I don't know if you meant to disappear or if that's just your nature, but I didn't expect to wake up alone. And now I'm stuck between pretending it didn't happen and wondering if it meant something to you too. She stared at the words, then deleted them, closed the laptop, and went to sleep. The nausea came without warning. At first, she blamed the stress, the back-to-back clients, the red-eye flights. But when the symptoms refused to leave, and when she started waking up at 4 a.m. craving pickles and apples, she took a test, then another, and another, all positive. She sat on the edge of her bathtub with her hands shaking and her chest tight. "Are you serious?" she whispered aloud, eyes burning. She wasn't ready for this. Not mentally, not financially, not emotionally. She thought of Sterling's face, of how calm he looked that night, like nothing could break him. She thought of how he disappeared like she was a transaction, a detail. Would he care? Would he want to know? Should she tell him? No. She didn't even have his number. And even if she did, what would she say? "Hey, you left without a word, but surprise. You're a father now." She couldn't do it, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. If he wanted to be found, he would have left a trail. Her best friend Kiara dropped onto her couch with takeout and loud opinions. "You're seriously not telling him?" Tiana stirred the soup slowly. "No." Kiara raised an eyebrow. "Girl, that man left you with a memory and a mortgage. The least he could do is acknowledge the baby he helped create." Tiana shrugged. "He didn't promise me anything. He didn't even leave a business card." Kiara folded her arms. "So you're going to be a single mom out of loyalty to a ghost?" "I'm going to be a single mom because I can handle it," Tiana said softly. Kiara didn't respond, just handed her the napkin and hugged her tight. Tiana moved to Tacoma. Smaller city, cheaper rent, more calm. She scaled back her business, took freelance contracts, built a nursery by hand with YouTube tutorials and second-hand furniture. She stopped talking about him. And yet, when Cairo was born, and she looked down at his tiny face, her breath caught, because the baby had his father's eyes, steel grey, sharp, unmistakable, and right there, on the baby's tiny wrist, a faded birthmark, same shape, same spot. She didn't need a DNA test. She knew, and she would never forget. The birth certificate felt heavier than the newborn in her arms. Cairo Wells, just her name. No father listed, no questions asked. The nurse didn't press her for the missing signature. Tiana was grateful for that. Her hand trembled as she signed the line, not because she doubted her decision, but because it wasn't supposed to be this way. Cairo lay bundled beside her, swaddled in soft blue cotton, a wrinkled forehead peeking from under his hat. His eyes were still closed, but she already knew what waited behind them. Steel grey, a colour that haunted her in the quiet hours, that reminded her of one night, one mistake, and a man who never looked back. The hospital room was quiet except for the hum of machines and the occasional shuffle of nurses checking vitals. Kiara had gone home to pick up more baby clothes. Tiana had asked the staff not to notify next of kin, because there was no next of kin. Just her. Her body ached. Her mind felt like glass. But when Cairo stirred and let out a soft, broken cry, everything else disappeared. She reached for him, held him close, whispered, "It's just me, little man. But I got you." The first weeks were brutal. No sleep. No help. No breaks. She'd wake every 3 hours to feed him, her own eyes burning. She learned how to diaper him one-handed while replying to emails with the other. She pumped breast milk in the middle of Zoom calls. She rocked him while editing press releases. The world didn't slow down, so she didn't either. Clients began to disappear, not maliciously, just quietly. One said, "We need someone with more bandwidth." Another, "We're restructuring the team." A few ghosted entirely. She understood. She just had to adjust. She cancelled the Tacoma office lease, moved into a 2-bedroom walk-up above a small bakery, sold her car, kept the stroller, and got to work. Every morning, she strapped Cairo to her chest in a soft carrier and walked to the local co-op cafe, ordered the cheapest drink, and used their Wi-Fi to send proposals, apply for brand consulting gigs, and pitch local startups. Most days, her inbox was empty. But one email changed that. A small black-owned tech firm in Tacoma needed a PR consultant for a pitch. The budget was modest, the timeline short, but the job was hers. She took it, delivered it early, and they paid on time. That night, she bought herself a second-hand baby monitor and let Cairo sleep in his own crib for the first time. 2. Tiana Wells PR subject, March Media Stats, your slide deck ROI. She didn't expect to see Beck Technologies pop up in her inbox. It was an automated metrics report, probably forgotten after the retreat. But seeing the company name pulled her breath tight in her chest. She clicked. Open rate, 89% client satisfaction, 92% internal response, best pitch we've seen this year. And still, no message, no follow-up, no him. Some nights, after Cairo had fallen asleep, she'd look through the few pictures she had from the Mirren Bay retreat. None of him. He was careful like that. But she remembered everything. His smirk, his voice, the way he looked at her before that kiss, like he was making a decision he wouldn't allow himself to make again. She whispered once, holding Cairo in the dark. You're going to be better than he was. You're going to stay. The baby didn't understand, but her voice held steady, and sometimes, that's all a child needs. Rent, baby formula, diapers, heat. She made a spreadsheet to track expenses and debts, color-coded each client pitch, kept a notebook of local businesses that might need rebranding. But through all the hustle, her son remained her center. He didn't ask for anything, didn't know how heavy it all was. He just smiled. Big, gummy, sunshine smiles. And somehow, that made everything feel possible again. One afternoon, a box arrived addressed to her, no return label. Inside, in a soft baby blanket, a teether shaped like a miniature laptop, a note for Cairo. Keep building. No name, no logo. But she knew. Sterling. She stared at the handwriting for minutes, her heart tight in her chest. He knew his name, which meant he had checked, or someone told him. But he still hadn't shown up. Kiara came over that evening and found Tiana sitting on the floor, holding the blanket, tears in her eyes. He knows, Tiana whispered, and he still didn't come. Kiara sat beside her. That man made a decision the moment he walked away from that bed. Whether he regrets it or not, Cairo is not a mystery. He's a miracle. Tiana nodded. But inside, her faith cracked just a little more. I want to believe in second chances. I want to believe that someone like Sterling could change. But until he knocks on this door, I have to keep choosing Cairo, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. He didn't ask to be born with a secret wrapped around his wrist like a birthmark, but I can raise him to never feel ashamed of it. She closed the notebook, stepped into the nursery, kissed her son's forehead, whispered, "You're not what he left behind. You're what he's missing," and turned out the light. Cairo was nearly 10 months old when he gave her the look. Not a tantrum, not a cry, just a steady, unbothered stare from the high chair, chin tilted slightly, eyes narrowed, as if he was silently evaluating her decision to mash up avocado instead of offering more banana. Tiana froze mid-scoop. She'd seen that exact look before, during a boardroom rehearsal when she suggested a brand pivot, and Sterling Beck leaned back in his chair, said nothing, and just watched her for a full 3 seconds before saying, "Continue." Now Cairo was giving it to her, with oatmeal on his forehead. She sat the spoon down slowly. "Lord," she whispered, "you really are your father's son." As Cairo grew, so did the reminders. He had Sterling's eyes, no denying that. But it was the mannerisms that broke her, the quiet intensity, the way he processed before reacting, the unshakable calm, even when frustrated. He rarely cried. When he did, it was short-lived, intentional, just like him. There were moments in the still of early morning when Tiana felt like she was raising a tiny version of a man who never even knew he'd left something behind. And yet, she loved Cairo so fiercely it made her chest ache. He wasn't a reminder of a mistake. He was her miracle. Her proof that even when love doesn't stay, life still shows up. One weekend, Tiana pushed Cairo through a local market. Warm day, vendors yelling, live jazz playing from a sidewalk saxophonist. A woman stopped beside her. "Oh my God," she said softly, staring into the stroller. Tiana tensed. The woman smiled. "He's so handsome. He looks just like that tech guy. What's his name? Sterling something. You know who I'm talking about? The quiet one. That billionaire who never gives interviews." Tiana blinked. She forced a laugh. "Must be the cheekbones." The woman walked off. Tiana's hands gripped the stroller a little tighter. She started seeing his name everywhere again, and tech blogs speculating about his reappearance, anonymous quotes in startup funding. Releases whispered sightings in Seattle and San Francisco. But he never called, never showed up, never claimed what was undeniably his. She thought about sending a photo, just one, Cairo in a sweater, holding a rattle, but she deleted the draft message before hitting send, not because she was afraid, because she refused to beg. Some nights she hated him, for disappearing, for touching her soul like it meant something, then vanishing like she was disposable, for not even trying to know the boy who had his heartbeat. Other nights she missed him, his calm, his wit, the way he made her feel visible. She'd whisper to Cairo in the dark, "You're better off. I promise you that." But in her heart, she didn't always believe it. Because sometimes she wasn't sure she believed herself. At 10 months, Cairo started figuring things out. He pulled open drawers, stacked his blocks in color order, even managed to remove the baby gate one afternoon while she was replying to a client email. He was smart, scary smart. Tiana watched him drag a chair to reach his sippy cup from the counter and felt her throat tighten. "That's exactly how he thinks," she muttered. Silent, strategic, no wasted effort. She had pictures taken for Cairo's 10-month milestone. Simple setup, neutral background, light brown overalls and a white shirt. His curls shaped neatly. Dimple just visible on his left cheek. The photographer gasped during editing. "Whoa, this kid has serious CEO energy, like a little boss baby." Tiana didn't respond. She just smiled politely and paid the invoice. She printed one copy and framed it in the living room, then stared at it for 10 minutes. Because the resemblance wasn't subtle anymore. It was like Sterling had left behind a blueprint. "You ever think you'll tell him?" Kiara asked one night while folding baby clothes on Tiana's couch. Tiana sighed. "If I ever see him again? Maybe, maybe," Kiara said carefully. "He'll see Cairo first." "And no." Tiana nodded slowly. "That scares me." "Why?" "Because I don't know what I'd do if he wanted to take him." Kiara's voice dropped. "He won't. You don't know that." "I know he didn't want you," Kiara said bluntly, "and that's his loss. But Cairo, that boy is yours. You raised him. You survived all of it. If he comes back now, he better come correct." Tiana smiled weakly. "Thanks." But the fear remained. Every day he becomes more like him. Every tilt of the head, every stare, every quiet moment before Cairo smiles. It's like I'm being watched by a smaller version of a man I haven't seen since that night. I don't know if Sterling would care, but Cairo deserves someone who shows up, not someone who shows up late. And if that day ever comes, I need to be ready. Tiana began documenting everything. Cairo's first giggle, first time crawling, a first time pointing at the screen during a tech commercial with Sterling's name in the credits. She saved it all, not because she planned to share it, but because she might need to. Because if he ever did come back, she'd be able to look him in the eyes and say, "You didn't raise him." "I did." The click of heels against polished floors echoed through the glass. Paneled lobby of the Pioneer Venture Exchange in downtown Seattle. Tiana's steps were sharp, focused, confident. Dressed in a fitted navy blue suit and clean white blouse, her curls pinned neatly at the crown of her head, she looked like every inch the powerful PR strategist she had become again, even if her nights still consisted of diaper changes and lullabies. She wheeled a slim black stroller behind her. Inside, Cairo sat quietly with his pacifier, eyes wide, taking in the sparkling ceiling lights and tall vertical banners with curious, calculating calm. He didn't fuss. He rarely did. Tiana didn't bring him to most events, but her usual sitter was down with the flu, and this pitch was too important to cancel. Her client, a small black-owned software startup called NeuroNode, had spent years building an adaptive language platform for children with speech delays, and now they needed funding. Real funding. Tiana had helped them build the story, shape the brand voice, and design a pitch that told the truth and sold the vision. This was the kind of project she lived for, meaningful, tech-forward, and full of underdogs. She wasn't going to miss it. She stood beside the startup's founder, a soft-spoken man named Elijah, coaching him through final lines as they waited their turn. "Remember," she whispered, adjusting his collar, "you're not just asking for investment. You're inviting someone into a revolution." He nodded, nervous but ready. The stage lights dimmed slightly. The presenter before them wrapped up. They were next. Tiana crouched by Cairo's stroller, brushing her hand over his curls. "You're gonna be good, right?" Cairo blinked, then offered her the pacifier. She smiled. "Thanks, boss man." The pitch was seamless. Elijah told the story of his own daughter, born with apraxia, how he spent 2 years coding a platform that would help children like her speak using pattern-based AI. Tiana advanced the slides and handled the audience Q&A like a seasoned political strategist. Every hesitation became a moment of clarity. Every skeptical glance turned into nods. Applause filled the room by the end. A few investors approached Elijah immediately. Tiana stepped back, took a sip of water, and finally let herself breathe. She turned toward the stroller. "See? We crushed it." But Cairo wasn't looking at her. He was staring at someone else. Tiana. Her spine locked. The air left her lungs before she could turn. That voice, low, even distinct, hadn't touched her ears since that night at Mirren Bay. But it was carved into her memory like an etching in glass. Slowly she turned, and there he was. Sterling Beck. He looked different. Still sharp in his custom navy suit, but the sharpness in his face had softened, just slightly. His hair was longer. A faint beard lined his jaw. But those eyes, exactly the same. He glanced down at the stroller, then back at her. "I didn't know you were still in this field." She tilted her head, collecting herself. "I didn't know you were still using aliases." He looked amused for half a second, then followed her gaze to the event badge on his chest. "Elliot Black." She gestured to it. "That's bold, even for you." "I use different names at pitches," he said. "It's the only way to hear the real story without people performing for the checkbook." She folded her arms. "And you always walk up to the women you ghosted after one night, pretending you didn't disappear into thin air." He opened his mouth to speak. But then Cairo made a small sound. A grunt, a sigh, and then he reached his little hand toward Sterling's pants leg, grasping air. Sterling glanced down and froze. His eyes moved from the soft curls to the round cheeks, and then to the eyes, his own eyes. The same color, same shape, same birthmark, faint and crescent-shaped on the inside of Cairo's wrist. Sterling didn't breathe for a moment. He slowly crouched. Cairo blinked at him, curious but calm. Sterling looked up at Tiana. "Is he mine?" Tiana's mouth tightened. She looked away. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked softly, almost like a man trying not to shake apart. She pulled the stroller back slightly. "I didn't know how. I didn't even have your number. And after a while, I didn't think you'd care." "I would have—" "No," she cut in, eyes flaring. "You left. You didn't even say goodbye. I woke up to cold sheets and a keycard. You made a choice. I made mine." He didn't move, didn't speak. Cairo gurgled again. Sterling looked at him for a long beat, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked unsure. Then he stood. "I want to talk. Now's not the time," she said, voice low. "And this isn't the place." He nodded slowly, stepped back, but his eyes stayed on the stroller for a beat longer than necessary. As she turned to leave, he pulled a business card from his coat and held it out. No words, just emotion. She took it, slid it into her bag without looking. He whispered, "I'll wait." Later, as she strapped Cairo into the car seat, she held back a scream. Her hands trembled on the buckle. Her breath came in shallow gasps. He had seen him, known immediately, didn't even ask for proof. She reached into her purse and pulled out the business card. Simple black, silver lettering. Sterling Beck private line. No email, no company, just a phone number. Her thumb hovered over the card. She slipped it into the glove compartment and drove away. Tiana hadn't planned on sleeping that night. Her body said yes. Her eyes begged for it. But her mind ran in circles too tight to escape. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Sterling crouching beside Cairo. That look on his face, not shock, not anger, recognition. She had prepped herself for this moment months ago, and yet it had landed like a gut punch. The next morning, her phone buzzed. Unknown number, no voicemail, no text. She ignored it. She had work to do, a client to prep, a toddler to feed, and her own thoughts to bury. Cairo babbled at the corner of the living room, smacking two plastic blocks together. He looked up and grinned. Her chest tightened. Same dimple, same pause before the smile. Same man, remade in a much smaller body. Her office was humble, a two-room converted studio above a donut shop in Tacoma. The walls were painted soft grey, accented with white trim and brass fixtures she had installed herself. Her desk sat in front of a wide window with a skyline view blocked mostly by power lines. But it was hers, and every invoice she signed with her name meant Cairo had a roof, a bottle, and a chance. At 11:14 a.m., the intercom buzzed. She assumed it was a delivery. It wasn't. "Hi," came the voice through the speaker. Calm, unmistakable. "It's Sterling." Her hand hovered over the door release. He was supposed to disappear again. That was his pattern. Why was he back? She pressed the buzzer. He stepped in, wearing dark jeans, a blazer, and carrying a cardboard tray with 2 coffees and a brown paper bag. She raised an eyebrow. "You come bearing peace offerings now." He placed the tray on her desk. "I didn't want to come empty-handed. I don't drink mystery coffee." He lifted one. "Yours is black, 1 sugar." "I remember." She stared. "Impressive. I'm a CEO. Remembering details is kind of my thing." She exhaled. Sat down. "You've got 5 minutes." Sterling didn't sit. He stood near the window, hands in his pockets, gaze low. "I didn't know," he said. "Back then, at the hotel. If I had, you would have what?" She cut in, voice flat. "Stayed, texted, claimed me, please." He flinched, just slightly. "I would have tried," he said. "You had your chance to try. I didn't disappear." "No," he admitted, "but I panicked. I left before I could talk myself into staying." She folded her arms. "And now? I'm not panicking anymore." As if on cue, Cairo let out a soft whine from the corner office nursery. Tiana stood, went to retrieve him, and came back holding the sleepy boy against her shoulder. Sterling stared, not in disbelief this time, in awe. Cairo blinked at the man, reached a small hand toward him again. Sterling stepped closer, slowly. "Can I?" Tiana hesitated. Cairo made the choice. He leaned towards Sterling's chest, arms stretching forward. Tiana let him go. And just like that, Cairo sat comfortably in the arms of the man who hadn't held him until now. Sterling looked overwhelmed. Cairo grabbed his nose. Tiana didn't say a word. Sterling stayed another hour. They didn't talk about the night, not in detail. Instead, he asked about Cairo's sleep patterns, his favorite toy, His first word. Tiana answered. Short, clipped at first, but honest. He likes stacking things. Organized. Precise. Sterling smiled. That tracks. He already figured out how to open the fridge and unplugged the Wi-Fi last week while I was on a Zoom call. He laughed. A soft, low sound. That tracks too. Tiana found herself laughing once. Just once. As he stood to leave, Sterling reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. No strings, he said, placing it on her desk. Just for Cairo. She didn't open it. I don't want money. It's not money, he replied. It's a trust document. I named him as beneficiary. If I die tomorrow, he's protected. Tiana blinked. I'm not trying to impress you, he added. I'm trying to start where I should have started, showing up. Cairo was asleep in her arms again. She stared at the envelope for a long time, didn't touch it, then looked at the stroller where Cairo had first locked eyes with a man he'd never met and still somehow knew. She whispered, I don't know if we can forgive him. But something inside her added, but we'll let him try. The next morning he came back. Same time. Same 2 coffees. No flowers. No speeches. No expectations. Just Sterling, in jeans, a black coat, and calm determination. Tiana stared at him through the glass door before buzzing him in. She didn't ask questions. He didn't offer explanations. He simply walked in, handed her the coffee, and crouched beside Cairo, who was already sitting on the office floor stacking plastic cups like trophies. Hey, little man, Sterling murmured. Cairo looked up, paused, then grinned. Tiana pretended not to see that part. This time, Sterling brought a small children's book. Brown Bear. Brown Bear, what do you see? He didn't read it aloud. He let Cairo turn the pages himself, babbling as he went. Tiana finished editing a pitch deck and glanced up from her screen. Sterling was lying on the floor in a suit, letting Cairo sit on his stomach like a human beanbag. She tried not to smile. Tried. Why now? She asked quietly one afternoon as he sat across from her while Cairo napped. He looked at her, serious. Because I don't want to miss it. Not a day. Not a moment. She sipped her drink slowly. And what about when it's not cute anymore? When he's 5 and asks why you left? When he's 10 and asks where you were? I'll answer him. And I'll earn my place. Even if it takes years. You can't just parachute in and rewrite the past. I know, he said. But I can stay long enough to help rewrite the future. She said nothing. But inside, the part of her that had slammed the door shut months ago, cracked just enough to let in air. He showed up every day for a week. He bought diapers when she ran out, took Cairo for a stroller walk while she had a client call, assembled a second-hand playpen in her office without asking. No declarations. No, we need to talk. No. Let's get back together. Just presence. And for the first time in months, Tiana wasn't surviving motherhood alone. So you're telling me he's just showing up? Kiara asked on FaceTime that Friday. Every morning. Same time. Like it's his new job. And you're not letting him stay the night? No. You're not holding his hand? No. You're not thinking about that night in the hotel? Tiana paused. Okay. That's a yes. I'm not soft, Kiara. Kiara grinned. You don't have to be soft. You just have to be honest. On day 9, Sterling arrived with a small envelope. Inside were printed photos. Pictures of Cairo. But not ones he took. Ones she had posted months ago on her now inactive business Instagram page. Cropped group shots. A blurred background from a workshop event where she spoke while holding a baby on her hip. I started looking, he said softly, before the auction. I think part of me already knew. I just didn't want to face it. Why now? She asked again. He looked her in the eyes. Because when I saw him, it wasn't about proof, it was about purpose. That afternoon, Cairo had an epic diaper explosion. Tiana froze mid-call. Sterling stepped in. Nope, she said, holding up a hand. Don't even try. You'll screw it up. He raised an eyebrow. Watch me. 10 minutes later, He emerged from the nursery holding Cairo, who was clean, fresh and grinning, with the new diaper on backward. Tiana burst out laughing for the first time in days. "You tried. I succeeded. Mostly." Cairo clapped. Sterling bowed dramatically. "He hasn't asked for forgiveness. He hasn't brought flowers. He hasn't tried to kiss me. But every time he walks through the door, Cairo lights up. And that scares me. Because it means maybe we were never strangers. Maybe we were just unfinished." The call came from the daycare around 3:16 p.m. "Tiana, Cairo's running a temperature of 102. We've isolated him, and he's resting, but he needs to be picked up immediately." Tiana's pen dropped from her hand. Her chest tightened. Not Cairo, not her baby. She didn't even wait to close her laptop. She grabbed her coat, tossed her phone in her bag, and sprinted down the stairs, skipping the last 3. The ride to the daycare felt longer than any pitch she'd ever presented. By the time she got there, Cairo was whimpering in a dim room, cheeks red, eyelids heavy, forehead damp. His cry when he saw her made her knees go weak. She held him close, whispering into his curls, "I got you, I got you, I got you." But her voice cracked, and so did her composure. Tiana bundled Cairo into fresh pajamas and laid him on the couch, a cool cloth resting on his head. She checked the thermometer again, 100 and 1.6. Still high. Tylenol barely helped. Her eyes darted across the living room like 1,000 warning signs blinked at once. She texted Kiara. No reply yet. She stood frozen in place, breathing too fast. Then came the knock. 3 slow taps. She turned to the door. It was him. Sterling stepped in, saw her face, and said only one thing. "What do you need?" Tiana wanted to scream, "I need you to disappear again so I can stop depending on you," but her mouth refused. She just whispered, "He's burning up." Sterling dropped his bag, walked over, picked Cairo up with such gentle hands. You'd think he'd done it 100 times. "I'll stay," he said. Tiana didn't argue. Sterling sat beside Cairo the entire night. He held a cool rag to his head, rubbed his back in slow, steady circles, whispered soft stories Tiana couldn't even hear. She watched from the hallway, arms wrapped around her chest. Her heart was loud, her thoughts louder, but Cairo was calm, and Sterling was still there. Around 2 a.m., Cairo finally drifted into a deeper sleep. Tiana walked into the room with a second blanket. Sterling was on the floor beside the couch, back against the wall, eyes heavy. "You could have left," she said softly. "I didn't want to. No one asked you to stay. No one had to." She sat beside him. They said nothing for minutes. Just listened to Cairo's breathing. The quiet filled the cracks that words couldn't reach. Then she whispered, "I panicked too, you know. When I found out." He looked at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know what you'd do, and I couldn't risk your silence being the answer." His jaw tightened. Not in defense, in shame. "You were right," he said. "I was broken. I thought disappearing would protect you from who I was." She shook her head. "It only showed me who you weren't ready to be." Around 4 a.m., Cairo shifted and let out a quiet sigh, not in distress, just sleepy protest. Sterling reached out, adjusted the blanket, and kissed his forehead. Tiana watched him and didn't stop herself from feeling it this time. Something real, something steady, maybe for the first time. She dozed off beside him on the floor, backs against the couch, heads leaned to opposite sides. Not lovers, not strangers, just 2 people bound by a boy who hadn't asked for perfection, only presence. And this time, he stayed. Cairo's fever broke by sunrise. Tiana checked his temperature for the 4th time in 2 hours, and when the reading finally landed at 98.9, she released a breath so deep it felt like months of pressure left her lungs. Sterling was still there, sitting quietly on the floor with Cairo tucked against his chest. Tiana leaned on the doorway, arms crossed. "I think we survived." Sterling glanced at her, tired-eyed but smiling. "We make a good team." She didn't reply. But she didn't deny it either. Cairo drank a bottle and fell asleep again, this time in his crib. Tiana shuffled into the kitchen and started the coffee machine. Sterling stood behind her, oddly still. "I'll go," he said. "You probably need the space." She looked over her shoulder. "You stayed all night with my sick child. You're not going to ruin that by leaving awkwardly." He raised both hands. "Okay, okay." She slid him a mug. "Cream's in the fridge. I'm not about to forgive you, but I'm not going to freeze you out either." He poured. "That's fair." She scrambled eggs while he sliced fruit. It felt normal, which, for them, was strange. "You always this competent in the kitchen?" she asked. "I grew up with 3 older sisters and a mother who refused to cook. I had no choice." She laughed. "Explains the control freak thing." He looked at her sideways. "Control freak?" She arched an eyebrow. "You label your phone charger cords." He smirked. "Okay, that's fair." The laughter between them wasn't forced. It wasn't loud either. It was the kind that came from old comfort, like remembering something warm from a life you once paused. While Cairo napped, Tiana pulled out a photo album. Sterling leaned in. There was Cairo at 2 months, swaddled, tiny fists curled. Cairo at 6 months, chewing on a stuffed bear. Cairo last week, holding a spoon like a weapon. "He has your stare," Sterling said. Tiana didn't answer, but she did notice how his eyes stayed on each photo longer than necessary. She turned the page. "Sometimes I wonder if he'll hate me for not telling you sooner." Sterling shook his head. "You protected him. You protected yourself. I left you with no way to reach me and no reason to try." She blinked. It was the first time he'd taken full accountability out loud, and something in her chest, something rusted over, shifted. Cairo woke up late in the afternoon, groggy but giggling. Sterling carried him to the living room while Tiana connected her phone to the speakers and played an old R&B playlist she hadn't touched since college. A familiar song came on. Tiana froze mid-step. Sterling chuckled. "Don't waste my time," he said, amused. Tiana covered her face. "I forgot that was on there. You were a drama queen back then, huh?" "I still am. I just hide it better." He picked Cairo up and danced with him gently. Cairo giggled and drooled. Tiana rolled her eyes. "That's not a real dance move." Sterling shrugged. "It works." He reached out a hand. She hesitated. Then let him pull her in. They moved slowly, not romantically, not seductively, just freely. Cairo in between them, her hand in his, her shoulder brushing his chest. There were no confessions, no sparks flying, but there was safety, and that was new, and maybe better. That evening, Sterling helped with bath time. He dried Cairo off like he'd done it forever. Tiana brushed out his curls. They laughed when he splashed water at both of them. Cairo reached for both their faces at once, his tiny fingers pressing their cheeks together. Tiana and Sterling looked at each other, forehead to forehead, noses almost touching. Then Cairo giggled and yanked them apart. They both broke into quiet laughter. "He didn't try to kiss me. He didn't try to explain things away. He just stayed, held our son, made me laugh. And I don't know if I'm ready to forgive him, but I'm not ready to lose this feeling either." Cairo was down by 8:15 p.m., full belly, warm bath, 2 books, and a lullaby sung softly by Tiana, while Sterling leaned against the doorway and watched. Now, the apartment was quiet. No cartoons, no baby toys clinking on tile, no tiny footsteps padding across the floor. Just the sound of 2 adults, ex-lovers, maybe future something, breathing in the same space. Tiana sat on the couch with her knees tucked beneath her. Sterling sat at the other end, sipping water slowly, the glass almost empty. "You should go," she said quietly. He nodded, but didn't move. "You always say that," he replied. "But you never tell me to." She looked at him. "Maybe I don't know what I want." He set the glass down. "Can I ask you something?" She nodded. That night, before everything, before the mistake, the silence, the pregnancy. "Did it mean anything to you?" Tiana blinked. She looked down, took her time answering. Yes, she finally said. It did. And I hate that it did. Why? Because you disappeared. And I had to convince myself it didn't mean anything to survive what came after. Sterling leaned forward. I left because I thought that night was too good to be true, because when I woke up and realized I felt something real, I ran. I told myself you were too smart, too grounded, too everything for me to mess up. She swallowed hard. But you did mess it up. I know, he whispered. And for once, that was enough. He didn't reach for her. Not immediately. Not like that night in the hotel. This time, he looked at her first, waited, let her see his face, open, steady, scared. Tiana shifted toward him. Not all the way, but enough. I don't want to do this because it's convenient, she said. And I won't do it just because you regret what happened. I'm not asking you to forget it, he said. I'm asking you to see who I am now, with Cairo, with you. With myself, there was no rush. When they kissed, it wasn't desperate. It was slow. Tiana's hands rested on his chest, feeling the pace of his breathing. Sterling's fingers brushed her cheek like he was memorizing her again. They undressed in silence, not with urgency, but reverence. His lips traced the curve of her collarbone. Her breath hitched when he whispered her name. Tiana, like it meant something this time. They moved together like they'd done this before, not just physically, but emotionally. They touched, they paused, they spoke between every breath. Are you sure? Yes. Are you safe? Completely. Do you want this? I want you. No pretending. No pretending it was meaningless. No hiding behind the excuse of one night. This was intentional. And when it was over, and Tiana lay curled against Sterling's chest, her fingers tracing the edge of his jawline, he whispered, You gave me a gift. She looked up. What gift? You gave me him, and this chance. And I'm going to spend every day showing you I'm worthy of both. I didn't want to love him again, but love isn't a light switch. It's a choice, and tonight, I chose us. Not out of guilt, not out of habit, but because I finally saw the man he's trying to become. And maybe, just maybe, I can be a part of that. Have you ever had to rebuild trust with someone you still loved? Would you give them a second chance? Or protect your peace instead? Comment your answer below. If you believe people can grow and families can heal like this story, share it with someone who still believes in second chances. And don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories. The next morning, Cairo woke up early, full of energy and ready for war, armed with a wooden spoon and one sock. Sterling was already in the kitchen, shirt wrinkled, hair wild, eyes soft. Tiana stood in the hallway, watching him try to negotiate with a toddler who clearly believed the fridge was a jungle gym. Cairo, Sterling warned. If you try to pull that handle again, I'm going to pick you up like a sack of potatoes. Cairo giggled. Sterling sighed. You don't take me seriously at all, huh? Tiana smiled, crossing her arms. You're not exactly intimidating before coffee. Sterling turned around, grinning. Neither are you. There was no discussion about who was staying over, no talk of what last night meant. Sterling simply made 2 cups of coffee and asked where the peanut butter was. Tiana passed it to him without comment. This was the new rhythm, and it was easy. Cairo chewed toast while Sterling cut fruit. Tiana reviewed a media plan with one hand and spooned yogurt into Cairo's mouth with the other. They were functioning like a team, like a household, like a family. But no one said the word out loud. Later that week, Tiana and Sterling took Cairo to the store. It was a simple trip. Diapers, wipes, fruit pouches. Sterling pushed the cart. Tiana carried the list. Cairo babbled nonsense while chewing on a package of baby wipes. A woman passed by and smiled at them. Beautiful family, she said softly. Tiana hesitated. Sterling didn't miss a beat. Thank you. He looked at her like he was asking a silent question. She didn't answer, but she didn't correct the woman either. Sterling didn't just play dad, he became one. He learned how to properly warm a bottle without boiling it, memorized Cairo's nap cues, and knew which corner of the living room floor Cairo always pooped in like clockwork. One afternoon, Cairo fell and bumped his head. Not serious, just a toddler tumble. Sterling scooped him up first, held him close, whispered something Tiana couldn't hear. Cairo stopped crying almost immediately. Tiana watched from the kitchen doorway, something tightening in her chest. It was admiration and fear, because the more Cairo relied on Sterling, the more she did too. "You look different," Kiara said during a visit. "Different how?" "Like you're breathing again." Tiana shrugged. "I don't know what we are. I don't even know what he wants." Kiara raised an eyebrow. "Does he act like he wants you?" Tiana paused. "Yes." "Then maybe stop trying to label it and just live it, one day at a time." One evening, rain tapped gently against the windows. Sterling had just finished changing Cairo's pajamas. Tiana stood watching as he carefully brushed out the boy's curls. "He'll probably need a haircut soon," she said softly. Sterling smiled. "Let's not rush it. He looks older every week." Sterling looked at her. "So do you." She raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? I mean wiser." She smirked. "Smooth save." They laughed. And in that moment, the tension that had once lived in the corners of the room was gone, replaced by a softness neither of them could deny. That night, Sterling stayed again. They didn't make love. They didn't even kiss. They lay in bed, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist, and Cairo asleep in the crib across the room. It wasn't romance. It was rest. And for Tiana, that was even more intimate. He doesn't ask for more than I can give. He doesn't try to rush me. He just shows up. And right now, that's enough. But what happens when showing up isn't enough anymore? What happens when Cairo asks the question I don't have an answer to? "Mummy, is he my daddy?" And worse, "Are you two together?" It happened on a Wednesday. Ordinary afternoon. No special occasion. No dramatic build-up. Cairo was playing on the floor of Tiana's office, toy blocks scattered everywhere. Sterling sat cross-legged beside him, pretending to build a castle, but mostly just handing Cairo the pieces he liked to throw. Tiana was across the room, editing a brand brief for a bakery client. Her eyes were on her screen, but her heart turned sharply the moment she heard it. "Dada." Silence swallowed the space. Sterling froze mid-reach. Tiana's fingers paused on the keyboard. Cairo clapped, proud of himself, and said it again, louder this time. "Dada." Then pointed right at Sterling. Sterling's throat tightened. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked at Tiana. She didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Tiana closed the laptop, stood slowly, walked over to them, and crouched beside Cairo, who was now holding a rubber block like a trophy. She didn't say anything to Sterling. She just kissed the top of Cairo's head and whispered, "You're smart. Too smart." Then she stood, walked into the kitchen, and gripped the edge of the sink like it was holding her up. Sterling followed a moment later. "Did you hear that?" he asked softly. She didn't look at him. "Of course I heard it. I didn't even tell him to call me that." "I know." He stepped closer. "You okay?" She turned around, eyes calm, voice quiet. "No, but I will be." Sterling didn't press her. Instead, he picked up Cairo, walked him to the nursery, and sat with him until he fell asleep. Then he returned to the living room. Tiana was seated on the couch, knees pulled up. He sat beside her, not touching, not speaking, just waiting. And then, finally, she spoke. "He's never said that word before," she said. "Not once. I believe you." "So now what?" Sterling leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I know I want to be someone he can keep calling that." She turned toward him. "You already are. But I want to be it the right way. There's no perfect way, Sterling. You missed the birth. You missed the first steps. You missed the first laugh. But you're here now. That counts." "But He waited. She swallowed hard. What about me? For the first time, she wasn't asking about co-parenting. She was asking about them. Sterling nodded slowly. I want this. Us. Whatever this becomes, do you? I don't want to raise a child I love with a woman. I'm still scared to say I love. Her eyes flickered. She sat very still. You love me. I did that night, he said softly. I just didn't have the courage to admit it. Tiana looked down. And now? Now I'm ready to say it out loud. To you, to Cairo, to the world. They didn't sleep together that night, not physically. But they curled up on opposite ends of the couch with Cairo asleep between them on a pillow. A cartoon played low on the TV. Tiana stared at the screen, then whispered, Dada, huh? Sterling smiled. Better late than never. He's Cairo's father now, not just by name, but by action. And maybe he's something more to me too. But if I give him my heart again, it's not going to be like last time. It won't be borrowed. It won't be temporary. This time, I want the man who stays. Tiana reached for her phone the moment she woke up. No missed calls. No texts. No good morning. She turned over, arm brushing against empty sheets. Cold. Untouched. Sterling was gone. Cairo was already babbling in the crib, chewing on his stuffed lion. She picked him up slowly, but her mind was elsewhere. Had Sterling left in the middle of the night? He wouldn't do that. Not now. Not after everything. She checked the kitchen. No note. Checked the front door. Locked. Garage. His car was gone. So was he. And the silence burned. At 10:17 a.m., her phone vibrated. Sterling, emergency board meeting, flew out to Seattle. I'll call later. That was it. No, I miss you already. No, I hated leaving like that. No voice memo with Cairo's name in it. Just sterile facts. Tiana sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the message. Suddenly, she wasn't a woman who had grown. She was the same girl in the hospital bed, 7 months pregnant and alone. The same girl who gave birth with no father in the room. The same girl who waited and waited and waited. For a man who didn't come. She bit her lip to stop it from trembling. You're not her anymore, she whispered. You're not her anymore. In the bathroom, she looked herself dead in the eyes. No more crying over this man, she said. He said he wants to be here. So act like it or leave again. But her voice cracked on the last word. He called that night. 11:42 p.m. She answered on the second ring, but her tone was ice. You left without saying goodbye. I didn't want to wake you. You didn't leave a note, or a kiss, or a whisper. Just silence. Sterling exhaled. I messed that up. Yes. But it doesn't mean I'm gone, Tiana. I'm here, just not there. She stayed quiet. I panicked, he admitted. The board was threatening to vote me out. Investors were angry. I was missing calls. I needed to fix it. You could have told me. You're right. I'm not asking to be your priority, she said, voice shaking, but I won't let you make me feel invisible again. Sterling was quiet for a long time. I know how much I've already cost you, he said, but if you give me the space to fix this, I'll prove to you that I can show up even from miles away. The next morning, a delivery showed up at her door. Inside, a box of Cairo's favorite storybooks, a blanket from the hotel embroidered with the initials CWSN, and a note. This was on the bed. I couldn't sleep. I missed your warmth. Sterling. That night, she texted him back. Don't run when it's hard. Run to me instead. He replied immediately. That's the plan. T always. Sterling didn't text her when he landed. He knocked. No warning. No, I'm on my way. Just a soft knock at the door. Tiana opened it and stared at him. Black coat. Tired eyes, luggage behind him. But his hands were full, Cairo's stuffed lion in one hand and a bag of her favorite pastries in the other. I missed you both, he said softly. They sat in silence over coffee. Cairo played on the rug, babbling at his reflection in the window. I hated leaving like that, Sterling said finally. But I had to prove to them I could be in charge, without falling apart. And what about proving it to us? Tiana asked. To me and Cairo. Sterling nodded slowly. That's why I came back. You want honesty? Tiana said, setting her cup down. I bled alone. I pushed alone. I named him alone. Sterling didn't interrupt. But I never stopped waiting for you. And that was the part I hated most. That I still held space for you in my heart. He looked down. You're not the only one who hated you for that, he whispered. Cairo pulled himself up, using the side of the couch. Tiana's breath caught. He took one shaky step, then another, straight toward Sterling. Sterling dropped the toy in his hand and opened his arms. Cairo landed in them, falling forward. Both men laughed, one full of baby joy, the other full of silent shock. Sterling looked at Tiana. Did I miss his first step? She shook her head, smiling. That was it. Then I won't miss the next ones. That night, Sterling said, Where should I sleep? She looked at him, paused. Not in the guest room, not on the couch, not like a visitor. He looked stunned. I want us to figure out what this is, but only if you're here, not halfway in. I'm not going anywhere, he said. But we'll do this on your terms. She nodded. And Cairo cried that night, teething. Sterling got up first, no hesitation, held him, rocked him, changed his onesie, warmed the bottle, all without waking Tiana. She watched from the doorway, unseen. He didn't perform. He just parented. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Later, in bed, she whispered, You want to be a father. I already am one. You want to be a husband. He turned to her, heartbeat in his eyes. Ask me again tomorrow, he said. I want to give you more than a yes. I want to give you a reason to believe it. As sleep took them, Cairo nestled between them. Tiana let her palm rest lightly on Sterling's chest. She didn't need promises. Not tonight. His presence, finally, was enough. The envelope didn't come in the mail. It was delivered by hand. Tiana opened the door expecting a neighbor. Instead, a man in a navy suit asked, Are you Miss Carter? This is a legal notice for Mr. Sterling Graves. Please sign here. She signed, not for trust, but for clarity. Sterling walked in minutes later and froze when he saw the envelope. Tell me you didn't sleep with her while we were apart, Tiana said coldly. Her name was Remy Lasker, high profile, trust fund money, luxury branding executive, and very public ex-fiancé of Sterling Graves. The letter claimed Cairo's existence threatened Remy's personal brand. If Sterling didn't confirm paternity through legal testing, she would file a character defamation suit. She wants to make sure Cairo isn't a publicity stunt, Sterling explained bitterly. Tiana stepped back like she'd been slapped. A stunt? Tiana didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just said, You told me you were done with her. I was, Sterling said. But I didn't erase our past. I left things messy. I was weak. I let her feel like there was still a thread. Tiana folded her arms. And now she wants to tug it and unravel everything I built alone. Sterling didn't argue. He drove to the lab with Tiana and Cairo the next morning. Cairo giggled in the back seat, unaware that a cotton swab would soon decide whether his father deserved to call him son. Tiana held his hand tight the whole time. Not for him, but for Cairo. I'm not afraid of the truth, Sterling said quietly. You're not. But I'm afraid of the circus that follows it, she replied. 2 days later, the headline read, Sterling Graves, secret baby or PR plot. Fiancé breakup timeline raises eyebrows. Tiana slammed her laptop shut. I didn't sign up for this, she muttered. You didn't sign up for me either, Sterling said. But you still opened the door. Cairo crawled toward them with his lion in hand. A reminder, innocent and pure, of what was real. Sterling's publicist called in a panic. Damage control. We need an official statement. Family photo. Soft interview. Lean into the redemption arc. Sterling declined. My family isn't a performance. He turned to Tiana. But if you want to run, if this gets too loud, I'll understand. She shook her head. We don't run. We raise. That night, Tiana asked, if the test said Cairo wasn't yours, would you still stay? Sterling's eyes burned, without a heartbeat, without hesitation. Because you love me? Because I love him. She let the words sit between them, not in doubt, but in awe. They planned a quiet first birthday for Cairo, backyard, balloons, just close friends. But Sterling had one request. No posts, no press, no gifts from people who never showed up when he cried at night. Tiana smiled. And if she shows up? Sterling's jaw tightened. She won't get past the gate. Sometimes the past doesn't knock. It crashes through the door. But true love doesn't run from the noise. It holds the child, faces the crowd, and says, this is ours. You don't get to rewrite it. Cairo's first birthday fell on a Saturday. Tiana baked the cake herself, a small one, shaped like a lion. No themes, no party planner, no sponsorships, just family. Tiana's mom brought balloons. Sterling grilled burgers. Cairo had no idea his big day came with court-level tension. At 10:42 a.m., a discreet email landed in Sterling's inbox. Subject, DNA test. Official confirmation result, 99.9999% paternity confirmed. Sterling stared at the screen like it had just rewritten his identity. He didn't cry. He didn't cheer. He walked over to Tiana, handed her the phone and said, he's mine. Science caught up to what I already knew. The party had just started. Tiana was handing out napkins. Cairo was smashing his cake. That's when the sleek black Escalade rolled up outside the house. 3 men in suits stepped out first, then Remy, dressed in cream. Sunglasses, a smug smirk. Behind her, 2 reporters. Sterling, she called. You could have just replied to my messages. Now the world gets to watch how you truly define loyalty. Sterling didn't flinch. He walked to the gate. Calm. Leave. You're not family. You're not invited. Remy pulled out her phone. Live streaming. America, meet your favorite billionaire liar. Father of a maybe baby, refusing transparency. Tiana stepped forward. Transparency? He took the test. We have it. Remy laughed. Send it to the press, then. Sterling's voice dropped low. Get off my property before I press charges. You don't get to hijack my son's birthday for clicks. By sunset, the confrontation video had already hit 1 million views. Sterling Graves shuts down X on camera. The footage of him shielding Tiana and Cairo while calmly demanding Remy leave had fans in awe. Protective dad energy. He chose his real family. He didn't even blink. The tide was turning. And not in Remy's favor. Sterling decided to post a photo that night. No PR caption, just a raw image of him holding Cairo, forehead to forehead, both smiling. Caption, my son. My peace. It broke the internet. Not because of celebrity, but because the moment was undeniably real. Remy's lawyer sent one more notice. Defamation, emotional distress, legal retaliation. Sterling forwarded it to his attorney and wrote back a single sentence. Your client attacked my family with cameras. We're done here. The silence that followed was louder than anything she'd ever said. Later that night, after Cairo was asleep, Tiana sat beside Sterling on the porch. I didn't think I'd get through a year of motherhood like this, she said. You didn't just get through it, he replied. You carried us. Tiana leaned into him. I was scared you'd choose her, because she's easy. Sterling looked at her. She's loud. You're strong. And strength is what I'll teach our son. Cairo stirred in his sleep. Sterling walked in and gently placed the lion plush next to him. You're safe now, he whispered, because your mother didn't fold. And I finally grew up. He looked back at Tiana. This family is my legacy. Not a press release. Not a deal. Us. Tiana leaned into the breeze as the car climbed through the sun-drenched hills of Walla Walla. Vineyards rolled past in neat green rows, and she finally let her shoulders relax. No assistants, no schedules, no phones. Just her, Sterling, and Cairo, finally sleeping peacefully in his travel car seat after fussing most of the drive. "You look like your brain's still back in Seattle," Sterling teased, gently, one hand on the wheel, the other reaching to squeeze hers. "I'm trying to believe this is real," she murmured. "It is," he said, "and no cameras, no press, no one watching us. Just wine, stars, and you." The vineyard estate belonged to a friend of Sterling's who owed him a favor. A weekend alone had sounded like a fantasy when he first proposed it, but now that they were here, it felt like the world had finally slowed to their rhythm. The estate manager, a soft-spoken woman named May, handed them the keys to the private guest house and pointed them toward a walking path that led straight into the heart of the vineyard. "There's a fireplace inside, wine in the cellar fridge, and the baby monitor connects to every room," May said with a wink. "You'll enjoy yourselves." Sterling carried their bags, while Tiana lifted Cairo out of the car. He blinked up at the bright sky, and then reached out with his tiny hands toward a patch of fluttering butterflies. Tiana smiled. This is what peace looks like. Later that afternoon, they unpacked and walked the vineyard path. Cairo babbled in his stroller, as the couple held hands and tasted samples from the grapevines. Sterling was different here, relaxed, more open. He wore jeans and a loose white shirt. No watch, no phone, no armor. They found a wooden swing tied to a large tree, and Sterling pushed Cairo gently as he giggled. "I never thought I'd enjoy something this simple," he said. "But watching him laugh like this, it changes everything." Tiana nodded. "You're not the man I met in that hotel room." He looked at her. "I never told you what happened after I left that morning." She stiffened slightly. "I was scared," he admitted. "I woke up and saw you sleeping, and I thought, if I stayed, you'd expect more from me than I could give. I ran because I thought love was supposed to be a weakness. But you make it feel like strength." Her lips parted, but she said nothing. "I don't want to run again," he added. "Not from you, not from him." They stood quietly, the air between them filled with truth. That night, after Cairo was put to sleep, they sat by the outdoor fire pit with glasses of red wine. Sterling disappeared for a moment and returned with a small wooden box. Tiana blinked. "Sterling?" No cameras, no fanfare. Just me. Just us. He opened the box. Inside, a ring, simple, vintage, and beautiful. "You don't have to say yes now, or even tomorrow. But when you're ready, I want you to know I am—" Tiana's throat tightened. She closed the box gently, resting her hand on top. "Ask me again tomorrow. When I've had wine and time to pretend I'm not panicking." He laughed. "Deal." Just as they leaned in for a kiss, a voice called out from the distance. "Well, well. Didn't expect to see you here, Tiana." They turned. A tall, lean man in a designer jacket stepped out from the shadows of the vineyard gate. Tiana's face hardened. "Damien." Sterling's brows drew together. "You know him?" "Unfortunately," Tiana said. "He was once a client. And a mistake." Damien smiled with that arrogant ease Tiana hadn't missed. "You didn't return my messages. Guess now I know why." Sterling stepped forward. "This is private property. You need to go." Damien raised his hands in mock surrender. "Easy, boss. Just saying hello. Didn't realize you were the man she ran to after running from me." Tiana stepped in. "I didn't run. I walked away when I realized you were trying to ruin my name while sleeping in my bed." Sterling looked from one to the other. The energy shifted. Damien smirked. "People talk, Tiana, especially in our industry. Hope you've got a good cleanup strategy if this relationship gets messy." She crossed her arms. "If you came here to threaten me, walk away now. I'm not scared of you anymore." Sterling moved between them. "You heard her." Damien's eyes lingered on the ring box, still on the bench. He chuckled. "Good luck with that." Then he walked away, back into the night. Tiana sat down, her hands trembling slightly. Sterling knelt beside her. "Who was he to you?" "The first man I ever trusted with my business and my heart. He tried to burn both." Sterling touched her hand. He doesn't get to hold space in your life anymore. She nodded slowly. Neither do my fears. In the distance, Cairo stirred. They stood together, walked back into the guest house, and for the first time in a long time, neither of them looked back. Chapter 9, Part 2. If you love me, stay. Tiana sat at the edge of the bed, the engagement ring still in its box on the nightstand. The vineyard's peace had long faded into the tension Sterling's voice left behind. He had gone to take a call, saying he needed air, but she knew that wasn't all. Outside, the sun was dipping behind the grapevines, casting amber shadows across the wooden walls of their cabin. Cairo was asleep in the other room, safe and unaware. Tiana could hear the soft hum of crickets starting to rise. She stood, opened the door, and stepped into the cool air. Sterling was leaning against the wooden railing, looking out at the distant hills. His shoulders were tense. I didn't mean to ruin the night, he said without turning. You didn't, she replied. I just wasn't expecting him. They were quiet. The breeze carried the scent of crushed grapes and soil. I wanted this trip to be perfect, Sterling said. I thought maybe we could step forward without the past crawling in. You can't always control what shows up, Sterling, but you can choose how you react. He turned to face her then. So, what's your choice, Tiana? She looked at him for a long moment. You said something earlier, that I was your clarity, but I need to know something before I say yes to this ring. Anything? If your investors tell you I'm a liability, if Cairo somehow makes headlines, will you still choose us? He walked over slowly, placing his hands gently on her arms. There's no investor, no shareholder, no scandal that outweighs my family. Her voice cracked. Say that again. You're my family, he said. You and Cairo. She closed her eyes, leaning into his chest. Then stay. Not for a press release, not to fix guilt. Stay because you love us. Stay through the noise. I'm not leaving again, Tiana. I couldn't if I tried. They stood like that for minutes, letting the sky turn violet above them. Back inside, Sterling laid the ring box gently in Cairo's crib, beside a small stuffed animal. For you to give her when you're old enough to say, Dad picked this. Tiana watched him, eyes misted. I don't need a grand proposal, she whispered. But I need a present man. You have one, he said. Now and always. Later that night, Cairo stirred and began to cry. Tiana moved to rise, but Sterling was already there. He scooped Cairo into his arms, holding him close against his chest. Shh, he soothed. Daddy's here. Cairo settled. Tiana watched from the doorway, realizing that this was no longer the man who left her in silence months ago. This was a man unlearning pride, unlearning perfection, learning family. She walked over and placed her hand on his back. He turned, kissed her forehead, then her lips. You're doing good, she said. With him, with me. He nodded. I'm learning from the best. Their second night in the vineyard didn't need candlelight or toasts. It was full of bedtime lullabies, tiny socks on the floor, and soft laughter in the dark. Love lived in the ordinary now, and for the first time in a long time, Tiana wasn't scared of forever. Chapter 10. Full Circle. Part 1. The press conference wasn't just a headline, it was a statement, but as Sterling Beck stood backstage, adjusting his cufflinks and glancing at the velvet curtains before him, it didn't feel like a business strategy. It felt like truth finally catching up to the life he now lived. Tiana stood beside him, holding Cairo in her arms. The baby tugged at her earring, oblivious to the significance of the moment. Tiana's nerves were hidden under a calm expression, but Sterling could feel them radiate from her body. I still can't believe you're doing this, she whispered. Sterling leaned down and kissed the top of her head. If I'm going to be the man you and Cairo need, it starts with telling the world the truth. The curtain lifted. Flashbulbs erupted. Questions flew like arrows. The buzz of journalists, photographers, and corporate suits filled the ballroom. Sterling stepped forward with Cairo on his hip. Tiana followed, standing to his right. They looked like a family, not perfectly packaged, not rehearsed, but real. He raised one hand. The room quieted. I'm Sterling Beck, CEO of Beck Technologies. Today, I want to introduce you to my son, Cairo Wells Beck. He paused. The flashbulbs intensified, but his voice didn't shake. And this, he turned slightly, eyes locking with hers, is the woman who gave me more than a legacy. She gave me love. She gave me truth. And most of all, she gave me a reason to break the cycle of fear I've lived in most of my life. Tiana blinked back tears. Sterling continued, now speaking less like a CEO and more like a man shedding armor. I used to believe leadership meant isolation, that strength meant hiding emotion, that success meant never admitting need. But I was wrong. He glanced down at Cairo, whose chubby hands now gripped the microphone. This little boy doesn't care about my net worth. He cares that I show up, that I hold him when he cries, that I dance like an idiot to make him laugh, that I change his diaper when Tiana's too tired. The room chuckled. Sterling's voice softened. This is what matters. Not image, not stock prices. People, family, truth. The applause started slowly, then built, then roared. Cairo banged the mic in rhythm. Sterling leaned down, whispered, "You're stealing my moment, little man." The laughter grew louder. After the conference, they retreated to a private lounge. Tiana removed her heels and sat on the couch with Cairo napping in her arms. Sterling poured her a glass of sparkling water and sat beside her. "I meant every word," he said. "I know," she replied. "That's what scared me the most." He tilted his head. "I'm not used to someone choosing me publicly," she added. "I've always been the one behind the curtain, fixing things, quietly." Sterling took her hand. "Not anymore." She looked at him, her voice barely audible. "What if this doesn't last?" "It will, because I won't stop showing up. Not for Cairo, not for you." They didn't kiss, not yet, but their hands stayed linked until Cairo stirred. That night, they didn't go home. Sterling booked a nearby suite, not out of extravagance, but convenience. Cairo was fussy, Tiana was tired, and none of them were ready to be alone yet. In the suite, Cairo finally settled. Tiana changed into an oversized tee. Sterling wore grey joggers and a plain tee, more man than mogul. They sat on opposite ends of the couch. Tiana looked at him. "So, what's next?" Sterling leaned forward. "I don't know everything, but I know I want you, not as an obligation, not because we have a son, but because I fell for you. That night in the snow wasn't a one-off. It was the start." She exhaled, shaky. "I've been guarding my heart," she admitted. "So have I. But maybe we can lower the drawbridge. Together." Silence lingered, soft, unrushed. Tiana moved closer. Cairo stirred in his crib, but didn't wake. Sterling opened his arms. She stepped into them. They stayed like that, skin to skin, truth to truth, until the silence said everything they were too scared to voice. Morning came with sunlight and baby babble. Sterling woke to Cairo's tiny hands smacking his cheek. "Good morning to you too," he muttered, groggy. Tiana laughed from the bathroom. It was messy. It was real. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like home. Chapter 10, Part 2, Beyond the Legacy. The press conference had ended, but the ripple effect was just beginning. That night, articles exploded online. Headlines screamed, "Sterling Beck reveals secret son." Others spun stories about Tiana, some praising her poise, others digging for any drama they could find. But inside the townhouse on Spruce Lane, none of it mattered. Tiana was curled on the couch in sweatpants, her laptop glowing in her lap as Cairo slept across her chest. Sterling sat nearby, shirt sleeves rolled up, watching them both with something close to reverence. "We should get out of town," he said softly. "Somewhere quiet, just the three of us." Tiana didn't look up. "They'll still talk. Let them." She closed the laptop and sighed. "You really mean that? You're not worried what the board thinks?" "I'm not a puppet, Tiana. I never was. I've always built things on my terms. That includes my life." She studied him for a beat, then nodded. "Okay, a week. That's all I can afford away from my clients. Sterling grinned. Then, I'll make it the best week of your life. They flew to a private estate in Oregon's wine country, a gift from one of Sterling's early investors. The house sat on a hill overlooking rows of green vines and wildflowers. There were no cameras, no headlines, just them. Cairo ran barefoot in the grass while Sterling grilled lunch. Tiana kicked off her sandals and joined their son. They raced. They tumbled. They laughed. For the first time since giving birth, she felt her muscles relax. That evening, they watched the sunset wrapped in one blanket. Cairo slept between them. Tiana leaned into Sterling's side. "I was scared I'd never have this," she whispered. "You gave it to me first," he replied, "when I didn't deserve it." A beat of silence passed. "What now?" she asked. "We build whatever we want. Marriage, a home, another kid if Cairo doesn't drive us crazy." She laughed. "You're getting ahead of yourself." "Am I?" he said, pulling out a small velvet box. Tiana blinked. "Sterling, I'm not asking for perfection. I'm asking for your yes when you're ready. I'll ask again whenever you need me to." She didn't open the box. She didn't need to. She wrapped her hand around his. "Start by staying." "That's what I need tonight." He leaned in and kissed her forehead. Always, they didn't make love that night to celebrate. Instead, they lay tangled in sheets, whispering future dreams, while Cairo snored softly beside them. It was enough. It was everything. Weeks passed. Her agency gained traction. Sterling learned how to pack a diaper bag without forgetting wipes. They hosted Sunday dinners with Kiara, took family photos, built routines. The chaos became sacred. One evening, Tiana stood in front of her bathroom mirror, staring at a fresh pregnancy test. 2 lines, clear as day. Her heart raced, but not from fear. This time, she wasn't alone. She walked into the living room, held up the test and raised one brow. Sterling's eyes widened, then lit up. "Again?" She nodded. He crossed the room, lifted her off the floor, and spun her gently. "This time," she whispered against his ear, "we do it from the start, together." He set her down, kissed her deeply, then knelt and kissed her stomach. Cairo toddled in, dragging a toy truck, unaware his world was about to grow. Later that night, Tiana journaled beside the window. "I used to believe love came after success, after the job, after the house, after I fixed everything about myself. But love doesn't wait. It walks in during the mess and stays to sweep the floor with you." She closed the notebook. Outside, rain kissed the glass, gentle and quiet, just like the night they met. And this time, no one was going anywhere. When someone walks out after giving you everything, don't chase the memory. Build the life they never expected you to have. Tiana didn't beg. She didn't break. She raised her son, rebuilt her name, and when love returned, it came with respect, peace, and a second chance she controlled. If this story moved you, share it with someone who's forgotten their worth. And subscribe to Mr. Peterson Long Stories, where real lessons live in unforgettable love.